Blaskor was codenamed Bull during its development at Rare. I'm pretty sure that's short for Bulldozer and not anything else.
There was Heavy Duty, which I quite liked. I thought that would have been good. Heavy Metal.
There's a version out with Blast Radius.
Power Dozer.
Then we went to Blast Dozer, and it was Blast Dozer for a while on its first debut at Shinkai in 1995. But we ran into a problem where the name wasn't trademarked worldwide, so the American version and the European version became called Blaskor. It was a project that had been started, I believe, about 10 times at Rare over various different formats.
I think it was Chris Stamper who came up with the original concept that knocking over buildings would be fun.
What we needed to do was find a purpose for the gameplay.
It's quite a difficult thing to do, really, because buildings don't fight back at all. They're just sat there.
So we came up with the idea of the constant moving object, which was a vehicle that moved through the level.
You had to knock down buildings in a way of this runaway truck.
It didn't really have an identity to start off with, but it eventually ended up looking like a sausage transporter or a Savoy truck, as we thought. People always wanted to have a more control over it, but that was kind of the point of the game, was it was always predictable and you knew where it was. I mean, it wasn't a particularly new concept. There were games like Lemmings, which you control what happened to the characters rather than control the characters themselves. There was quite a lot of influence on Blaskor. One of the more subtle ones was probably Thunderbirds. It was an international rescue team where they used a variety of vehicles specific to each mission. We would kind of design an environment and then work out which vehicles would best suit the environment. Blaskor had a reputation, possibly unfairly, of being a very hard game as well. It was a reflection of the type of game players we were at the time. The most obvious one is the dump truck.
Backlash, as it's called. Yeah. I went over the top and had like animating textures, like rendered the texture so there was a light source going around it, and as it spun, it lit correctly. It was just it's overkill.
A lot of people seem to hate it, but I thought that was the most fun vehicle. It really needed quite a bit of skill to knock down buildings. You had to swing around the back end skids and get the back end to go into the buildings to knock them over.
That was actually the mechanic from Mario Kart. It was a jump turn in Mario Kart, so you press the button and swing the back end of the truck down. Some of the later vehicles became a bit more flamboyant. We had an artist, Ricky Berwick. Basically, he would come up with the idea and we'd just try and shoehorn that into the game.
In vogue was manga at the time, so we ended up kind of trying to spice it up a bit by putting a lot of robots and things in there.
So, for instance, if you look at Thunder Fist, it's only got one arm. Because we ran out of polygons, it wouldn't fit in memory, so we actually just took an arm off, and that's how it appears in the game.
I mean, we had quite a few vehicles in Blaskor. A lot of them didn't get very far, and a lot of them were developed just as test vehicles when we were using the N64 emulator.
Lee Ray did a lot of cool designs.
Some of them didn't get in because, well, they were more just of something which was supposed to look nice rather than play well. That kind of came later for a lot of the vehicles. Some of them didn't get in because they were just too out there, basically. There was one with a groin cab in it. Don't ask why, it was very strange.
There was quite a lot of vehicles we ruled out. The main criteria had to be that had a unique ability to knock down buildings, so I think in some of the early demos, and even at Shinkai, we featured a Scorpion model.
I remember Richard Wilson putting the Scorpion thing in, it was like...
The thing was they didn't have a unique enough ability, so yeah, you just walk on looking like a Scorpion, but it just runs into stuff. We struggled to make those into fun vehicles that could actually have a proper destructive purpose.
There's quite a variety of tunes in Blaskor, and I put it down to partly Martin Wakely giving me the freedom to do that, but also more than likely because I can't concentrate on anything for more than 5 minutes, so I just go off and just do whatever was in my head at the time.
Yeah, when we started on Blaskor, we didn't even have the hardware available. All we had was a massive fridge-sized computer.
I was sitting there and I had like an Onyx beside me, which is like a £250,000 machine.
I know the artists were working on machines that were supposed to emulate what the N64 would be, but this was years before it came out, so we were all kind of doing stuff in the dark a little bit.
And we had so much equipment, it created a bit of a hot house, so it was like the temperatures used to get astronomical. And it no aircon. So, but we toughed it out.
The hardware changed all the way through, so the final specs for the N64 were nailed down to very, quite a long way towards the end of the project.
To be honest, it was a great relief to get the final hardware, and I think we actually got the first boards in Europe, actually, from what I remember. There was just a couple.
The main feature that didn't get in that I was gutted about was the rumble pack.
I remember seeing the very first prototype of it, and it was a tiny little motor with a bit of solder on it that span round. And I remember at the time thinking that was terrible. And we were asked to use it, and I vetoed it and said that I didn't think it would be of any use. And it's now become completely standard in the industry, so proves how little I know. Start to finish, it took us 13 months with a core team of 4 graduates basically, and then we got another 2 or 3 people in towards the end, but I think there was never more than 7 people working on the game at any time.
So I think the cancel button was like that. And then obviously I think because we really wanted to do it, they just kind of let us do it.
Blastcore was received pretty well. I think it got good reviews. Some people didn't know how to take it though.
I mean, basically I went out and bought every magazine that had a review, even the German one I bought. I had a review of Blastcore and took it all personally. So.
It's a bit of a cult classic, and people still talk to me about it now.
We were a young company, as in most of us were in our early 20s, and absolutely dedicated to what we were working on.
There's a lot of people just used to come in because we were all computer geeks and we had no homes to go to, basically. Like a place for lost boys to come and make computer games.